Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening to or watching us. This is the Awesemo Nhl Dfs strategy show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford. Joining me for this trip through the quantum realm to Camp Lehigh, 1970s, our very own Captain America himself, Josh Harris. Josh, how are we doing today, bud?
Good. I think Captain America has a little bit more hair than I do, though.
Yeah, and maybe a better ass, although I haven't seen your ass, so I don't really know.
Yeah, no one needs to see that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so we're going to get away from Josh's behind and talk about the NHL slate here a little bit. Before we do that, just want to tell everybody that if you could please like and subscribe, click the bell. It would help us grow this channel, get us to the top of the algorithm, and keep these coming on a regular basis. It was a big NHL night last night. Probably it might end up being the biggest night of the season, though we'll see if they have anything at the end of the year. I didn't do so well because I didn't have much Dallas 2. How'd you do, Josh?
I had a 5-man Dallas, no Dallas 2. And originally I had a Dallas Josh stack with Dallas 1, Heiskanen, Klingberg, and Roop Hintz. But then I was like, I don't want to be stuck if Hintz is out. So I took Hintz out and I ended up going Dallas 1 with Heiskanen, Klingberg, and then Aho and a mini of Giroux, Voracek. So I cashed, but like Dallas scored 6 goals. So that was pretty tilting. That, it was Robertson night.
Yeah, it was Jason Robertson night.
His numbers are really good. Like,
pardon me?
Per 60 numbers for rookies who've played over 100 minutes, they're elite.
Yeah, and like I think Roope Hintz is kind of underrated too, right? Because there are some pretty good guys, pretty good offensive players on that Dallas team. Pavelski and Radulov and Seguin are hurt, but you have Pavelski, you have Ben Klingberg, Heiskanen, so it's kind of easy for someone like Hintz to get lost in the shuffle a little bit. But we had the winner of the spin was Fatso Fat 6969. Great username. Awesome. Great username. He had, I believe it was a one-off Austin Matthews and a one-off Alex Ovechkin, but he had Dallas 2 with Hintz, Robertson, and Lindell. And then he had the Carolina line that came through of Stahl, Svechnikov, and Hamilton with Andre Vasilevsky in goal. So it definitely was a night where you needed some Dallas 2. Congrats to all the winners. I know I wasn't a winner, but we definitely had some. Josh, why don't you tell us what you think about the slate tonight before we move things forward?
So this is exactly the same slate as Monday, without the Sharks and the Blues. So we're going to get Chalk Edmonton tonight again. There's still question marks with Vegas. Pietrangelo's out. Stone's a game time decision. And then Montreal mixed up their lines right before we went on the air, so we'll get to that. And then we have the Kings Ducks again, who went off for 11 goals last game. So we might have some unfortunately, we may have to talk about that game again. But yeah, this is a pretty good slate.
Yeah, this is a good slate. I think there are a lot of unique line combinations that you can get to, and you kind of need to do that on a shorter slate anyway. You might not be able to just get away with like your 4-3 stacks or something like that. You might have to do something a little bit different. So we'll talk about all that. Before we jump to it, want to point out our super chat from Darren Clary, $100 super chat in our YouTube chat. Thank you very much, Darren. He said, had a big night last night. Wanted to show my appreciation and give credit where credit is due. Thanks to the NHL Awesemo crew for all that you do. Congrats, Darren, on having a good night. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys win money.
He finished 3rd and 5th in the spin last night, so big Dallas 2 night for him. I'm happy. Love to see players accumulate those tickets and cash them in. That's one of the best parts of doing this, seeing other people win if you can't win yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the nice thing about doing what we do is like, the five or six nights a week where we don't win, somebody in our chat usually does, and it kind of makes us look smart even when we lose. So that's a good thing for us. All right, before we move along to the games, want to let everybody know that today's show is sponsored by JockMKT. If you haven't heard, JockMKT has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange Forget waiting until the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. With daily markets for NBA, NHL, and PGA, you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of each match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold them during the game based on your own analysis. Download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code Awesemo NHL50 for a $50 bonus on your very first deposit. That's right, you get a $50 bonus deposit when you use the promo code Awesemo NHL50, and it is an exclusive offer for the Awesemo community only. This promo expires Saturday, so if you want to get in, you got to get in there in the next couple days. So get started on the Jock Market today. All right. Thank you for that, Tyler. We'll give our bell a little toot, and we'll move along to our very first game of the night. We have the Vegas Golden Knights with a 2.8 implied goal total going into Minnesota. The Wild have a 2.6 implied goal total. As Josh mentioned a little bit earlier, there is some housekeeping stuff for Vegas here. Alex Pietrangelo is out. He's going to be out for a little while, it seems. He was sent back from the team to go get some evaluation done. So he's done for this little road trip for the little time being. So expect a lot of Shea Theodore, Alec Martinez, and those guys. And Mark Stone, obviously, that game time decision. Okay, it's a little bit of a low total here, but I think there are multiple lines on both sides that people are going to have interest in. So why don't you tell us what you have interest in, Josh?
Yeah, so the first thing you see is Minnesota Wild's at home, and they have the Greenway, Eriksson, Ek, Foligno line together, which means they're definitely going to match up against Vegas one. Now, Alex Tuck, if Stone is out, is going to be up there. And their numbers in the small sample are really good, but this Eriksson, Ek, Foligno, Greenway line is easily the Wild's best defensive line. They have great defensive numbers in a large sample. 2 high danger chances against per 60 and a 1.02 expected goal against. That's elite. So even if Stone is back and on the top line, this is probably just going to be a low own like MME play for me. Just because, like, I don't want to fade them completely. It's a 5-game slate. They're an elite line. They're fully correlated on power play 1. Vegas is one of the best teams in the NHL. Like, it's not a good matchup at all, but just if you're making like 150 lineups, you want that, just maybe even like 5 or 6 out of 150 just to, just in case they, bury their, like, just because they have great numbers doesn't mean they can't be exploited. You know what I mean? So, but really, what this is about for me is Vegas too. So they're still cheap. Riley Smith is still 3,400. They're going to get the Rask, Parisi, Fiala line. Fiala's a nice player, don't get me wrong, but Rask and Parisi are not exactly guys that you fear defensively. So what can we say about Vegas too, right? We say it every time. They're underpriced. They're way cheaper than Vegas 1. They fully correlate on power play 2, which is technically, like power play 1A. It's not like the Capitals not the Capitals, like a team like the Avs who roll like 150 or a minute 50 of the 2 minutes on power play 1. So they'll see a decent run. It's not going to be the same as the top power play, but for their price, you don't need an extreme amount of power play time. So this is a good matchup for Vegas too. And then, the Kaprizov, Bjugstad, Zuccarello line, they're going to avoid the Stevenson Stone line. They'll probably get the Glass, Roy. So if Stone's in, it's going to be Tuck there. If Stone's out, it's probably going to be my boy Keegan Coleslaw. So I don't mind taking some stabs on the Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Bjugstad line. It's a little overpriced, if that makes sense, even though they're only, like 14-1. Like, Kaprizov at 5,000 is still a great price for him. He's ridiculous. Like if you haven't seen highlights or haven't watched him play, he's really fun to watch. But this is a nice MME line as well. And then if you want to get even cheaper, you can go to that second line, because as good as the Knights' second line is defensive or offensively, they're not exactly a shutdown line defensively. So I think you can go there as well.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention about Vegas, and I mentioned it on the show a couple days ago, and you were talking about the injuries and how, maybe they can be exploited in a couple spots. Over the last month, Vegas is 22nd in the NHL by expected goal share. That's worse than teams like Vancouver and Ottawa. Now the schedule plays a part of it because they have been playing Colorado and Minnesota quite a bit lately, but that kind of gives you the measuring stick of where they stand against Minnesota and Colorado, especially with all these injuries. So like Vegas with a full roster, I think this would be a terrifying matchup. Vegas without Pietrangelo and especially without Mark Stone, I think that loss can't be overstated. He's probably the best defensive winger in the NHL. That is a huge, huge loss for them. So I have a lot of interest on the Minnesota side. The problem with Minnesota is their power play sucks so much. Like amongst like the historically worst power plays they're on pace for. So like I think if you're stacking Minnesota tonight, you're not really stacking for the power play, right? Like you want to get Zuccarello and Kaprizov on the power play. Like I get that. Ryan Suter top power play minutes. Like I get that as well. But Vegas typically has a good penalty kill. Like Mark Stone's a part of that, so that's probably going to get a little bit worse, but they typically have a decent penalty kill. And like I said, Minnesota's power play has just been absolutely awful this year. So if I'm stacking Minnesota, I'm probably going to focus on even strength lines. Like I'm not going to do something super crazy and put Kaprizov with Eriksson Ek or something like that. I think if Minnesota really does damage here tonight, it is going to be a 5-on-5. So I do like you mentioned that matchup, that Kaprizov Zuccarello matchup. I do like that matchup going into that third line for Vegas here tonight. But honestly, I think either of the top two lines are in play for Minnesota here tonight. Over on the Vegas side, one thing I want to mention is that they did change up their power play last game with Stone out. So that Vegas too, I think you were saying earlier they have full correlation. I think they lost that in their last game.
Okay.
Marchessault got moved to the second power play unit with Glass and Stevenson. I think it's like Glass, Stevenson, Haig, and Martinez. Like the second power play unit is just nothing anymore. So, but Carlson and Smith are now on the top power play unit. And it figures to be heavily used. So while they're not fully correlated, it actually might be a better situation for them now that they're going to get all those heavy top power play minutes. So if you want to go to the Vegas side, I think you want to focus on that top power play. So guys like Pacioretty, guys like Carlson and Smith, and Alex Tuch. So I think like Pacioretty, Tuch, and Theodore makes sense. Carlson, Smith, and Theodore makes sense. Something along those lines. For defensemen here, I noticed in the last game, Nick Hague picked up a lot of minutes. He was up to, I think, 21 minutes last game, playing on the second power play, and he's a good puck-moving defenseman for Vegas, and he's only priced at $3K. Alec Martinez played a lot more minutes with Pietrangelo out. He's up to $5K. I think there are a lot of defensemen on both sides of the lake here.
Yeah. Theodore, if you're obviously using anyone in the top power play, is a lock. I'm a big Alec Martinez fan, despite the 2014 Stanley Cup, which he scored the game-winning goal against the Rangers. But 5,000, he was up around like 5,700 even last week. So with the bump with Pietrangelo out, if you want to one-off Martinez, that's fine. Hague, I like Hague. 3,000, it's a fine price. And then on the Wild side, Suter gets the top power play at 3,800. But at one point there were like 2 for the last 47 on the power play, something horrifically bad like that. So for me, like I don't mind going to Spurgeon, extra 400 to go to Spurgeon, and then if you just want to spend up, Matt Dumba is preferred over Jonas Brodin.
Yeah, I do kind of like Dumba as a one-off here tonight. Like he won't get that much ownership, I don't think, playing on the secondary power play unit as the most expensive Wild defenseman. But his peripherals are typically very good. He's one of those guys, we talk about the combo meal. He's one of those guys that can do it. He can put up the shot block and the shot on goal bonus in a single game. Not that he'll do it often, but he's capable of it. So do like Matt Dumba. Don't mind Hague. Like Hague is a guy that I feel like you can throw in pretty much with any one of your Vegas stacks, right? Because I think once you get down to 3K with 21 minutes of power play time, like at that point, like if you want to correlate him with PP2, I guess that's fine. But I think at that point, you really want to get him with the studs from Vegas. So I think, again, whether you're power play stacking Vegas or not, I think Hague makes sense in almost every lineup that you're making. But again, if you can get up to Theodore, that's fine. Capo Kakinen, I like him tonight. Have a fair amount of him. Do you like him?
I do too. I was saying in the Slack chat earlier that it feels kind of trappy just because of his price. Like he's coming off a shutout the same nights 2 nights ago. His price has gone down. He's at home, so he's probably going to have a little inflated ownership. I guess goalie ownership doesn't matter if you're the best goalie of the night. But yeah, I mean, I like him as a one-off. I like him with the Wild. I just am concerned that it just feels like a trap. But if Stone is out, I will have more confidence putting him in.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it feels like a trap. Like it feels dirty putting him in at his price. But I was saying in our Slack chat earlier today, I think this is a good goalie slate. Like there are some nice prices on some good goalies in some decent spots. So if you think that Kakinen is trappy, you don't necessarily need to use him. There are other goalies you can use, and we'll get to those in a little bit. There may even be one in this very next game. Ottawa, 2.6 implied goal total. Going into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.9 implied goal total. There's going to be a lot of ownership on Edmonton here tonight. The Oilers look like they're sticking with the top line they have been running with. That includes McDavid, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto on the top line. Ottawa changed up their lines a little bit, so their top line looks like Josh Norris between Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. And their second line, actually, well, all their lines changed up. Their second line now is Colin White between Tim Stützle and Evgeny Dadonov. We always talk about the Edmonton power play because they kind of mix it up. Their fourth forward a little bit. Last game again, Chiasson and Neil both got PP time, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to have to pick between one or the other. In that situation, I typically go with the cheap player anyway, but I'll let you break down this game. What do you like here from both sides? Because I think there's something from both sides to like.
Yeah. So let me start with Edmonton first. So last slate, Connor McDavid was like 50-something%. Like that line was just ridiculously owned, like insanely owned. And they did okay. They weren't enough to be on the optimal lineup. Draisaitl had one shot. Yamamoto had one shot. And they both scored on that one shot. Which is a bit worrisome. Like, I hate conjecturing that a player is playing hurt, but something's off with Leon Draisaitl. Like, I said it yesterday about Matthews, and he moved power play spots, and then he scored 2 goals. So, like, but, like, okay, his play, his minutes have been, like, maybe they're trying to get him going playing with McDavid. Maybe it's just, like, a confidence issue. We don't really know. Only he knows. So I think, obviously, the chalk tonight's still going to be Edmonton 1. Now that the Senators mix up their lines, I would imagine the McDavid line is going to get the Norris, Tkachuk, Batherson line, and that line in a almost 80-minute sample is very high event, both ways. So I think you can go to both top lines tonight. Maybe even Ottawa's sneaky, maybe not anymore, because I think, last game Mike Smith got lit up like a Christmas tree. The last game he was in net. So I think the shine is wearing off him a little bit. So yeah, I mean, Brady Tkachuk is the best player on the Sens. And so, like, if I'm going to spend up on the Sens, I'm going to have Brady Tkachuk in there. It is a little bit worrisome going against the McDavid matchup, but, like, I think this is a matchup that's going to be pretty open hockey. So both top lines for sure. Obviously, Edmonton 1's going to be the chalk. You're going to play him. You can get a little bit different if you want, because Yamamoto didn't see power play one time. You could put Nugent. You could put Chiasson in there. Chiasson had a good game last night in, like, his 7 minutes of ice time or whatever. He had 5 shots on goal and a goal. But, like, he's only going to get 10, 11 minutes, but he's 2,600 and he does see power play time. So chances are, if he does get there, it's going to obviously be on the power play. And then this second line for the Oilers is going to get the depth of the Senators. So, Tierney, Brown, Dzingel, not the best defensive line. So I don't mind going to Edmonton 2 tonight. I also don't like this. I like this Stützle, White, Dadonov line, especially because Stützle and Dadonov power play 1, they're cheap 2-man. I think you can put them in with Chabot and not really kill what you're trying to do in the rest of your lineup. So there's really a lot to like in this game. And honestly, I think I like the Ottawa side a bit more just because of the ownership. And like if you put in McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins with Barry, right? You're kind of hampered on where you're going, right? There's only so many avenues you can go. So I think going to this Ottawa side against Mike Smith is where I want to be heavier on this game.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I am a big fan of the Ottawa side here today. The matchups, I mean, the 5-on-5 matchups, it's something to bring up, but again, like I think Puljujarvi and Nugent Hopkins, I think are both better defensively than Draisaitl and Yamamoto. So like even if it's a tough quote unquote matchup, I think it's a lot easier than it was a week ago. What really makes me like this matchup here tonight is the special teams. Ottawa is 7th by power play opportunities per game. Like they generate amongst the most power plays for their team in the NHL. And the Edmonton power play is 28% worse than the league average and bottom 10 by goals against. Like Edmonton has an atrocious power play. Not that Ottawa's is very good, but if Ottawa can draw 4 or 5 power plays against one of the worst penalty kills in the league, I'm probably going to attack that. And I'm going to attack it, especially where we have some of their ownership. Like we have Drake Batherson, 6%. Kachuk is a little bit higher, but not a whole lot. Like he's at 8%. This is a top line that could play 18, 19 minutes in a great special teams matchup coming in. That'll probably come in at about 5% on a 5-game slate. So I really like that top Ottawa line. The problem with the top, like the thing with the top Ottawa line is that if you want to play Edmonton 1 or Colorado 1, you can't fit them. They're just too expensive to fit. So like if you want to use that Ottawa top line, you have to go somewhere else. You have to go maybe the Los Angeles top line or, Vancouver power play stack or something like that. Like if you want to use Edmonton and Colorado, you can't use Ottawa, but I think Ottawa is in a better spot than people realize tonight. And the ownership, like there's almost no ownership on them, or little ownership, I should say. So I do like that. And if you want to go to the Stützle 2-man, like we have them in the mid-single digits ownership as well, the Stützle Dadonov 2-man, and it's a lot cheaper and they're on the top power play, taking advantage of that great special teams matchup. So again, I think there is quite a bit to like here from the Ottawa side because, and like it's much field and try to take advantage of a decent matchup. Looking at the defensemen, I mean, I think mostly I'm just correlating, Barry or Nurse in my Edmonton lineups. I'll dump down to Bouchard. One thing to note is that they might be going with 7 defensemen tonight. So that could cut into the ice time for the lower guys like Bear, guys like Legason, guys like Bouchard, if he plays. So just be aware of that. On the Ottawa side, I think I'm correlating Shabbat in my PP1 lineups or going right back to Artem Zub as a punt. So those are my D-men. Who are yours?
Yeah, I agree. I if I'm using Edmonton 1 or I preferred Nurse over Barry. And I know like that may not be popular. And lastly, Nurse was half the ownership as Barry. But like Barry seems like he's like a power play dependent type of guy. Nurse is the one who just blocks shots, puts shots on goals. So like 6,300 Barry is a tough pill for me. I'd rather put in Nurse. If you want to play Barry, certainly fine. For me, I'm a Nurse guy. More she's home. Maybe she's watching.
Josh's fiance is a nurse, which is why that was doubly funny.
Yeah, but getting back to it, for me on the Ottawa side, I like Shabbat. He's been playing ridiculous minutes, like 27, 28. He hasn't been doing much with it fantasy-wise, but he's been playing really well. I think you keep putting back in, and Artem Zub, my son, I think you could definitely min-price punt him.
Yeah, I like Artem Zub as a min-price punt. I think I'm mostly correlating. I'm going to stick with Barry, but like at this point, you can't argue with Nurse's production and what he's done this year. And again, like if you want to put him in, but I think Nurse is the guy that I would one off too. Like if I don't want to play an Edmonton stack, but still want to get something out of that game, I think Nurse makes the most sense as a one-off. Matt Murray, we playing some Matt Murray tonight?
Yeah, he's kind of like, I don't want to say like Gibson, but like his price doesn't move. Like he's always the same price, no matter like if he's playing like some like junior hockey team on rollerblades, he's going to be 7,000. So like you have to have 7,000 Matt Murray, because if they win, he's going to see like 30, 40 shots.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. I just hope that if he wins, it's 7-2 and not 7-6. Yeah. So let's hope we can get some luck with Matt Murray here. Not in on Mike Smith, I assume.
No, 8,300 Mike Smith. There's a lot of things I wouldn't do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. All right. Yeah, not in on Mike Smith. All right. Before we move it along, just want to let everybody that's watching know or listening. You can get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass that comes to $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, player rankings, our Slack channel, and a whole lot more. If you only want to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for our Awesemo Plus NHL weekly package at $11.95 per week. You can stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. And when you join Awesemo Plus, you really join a community here. The tools and projections are nice, but you also gain access to our premium Slack channel where you can talk strategy and other topics with your fellow DFS players. You can participate in office hours with Awesemo experts, and you can stay up to date with projections from Awesemo Alex Baker himself. So it's a favorite feature of many of our subscribers and added perk to the Awesemo Plus package. You know, we have a lot of people telling us just how much they enjoy the community. You know, we talk a lot of hockey, but we talk some other stuff, NBA Top Shots once in a while, talk about some PGA. We'll talk about some NBA a little bit. We mostly keep it to hockey, but we like to help each other out wherever we can. So the Slack channel is a big perk with our Awesemo Plus package. So head on over to awesemo.com. Sign up now, $29.95 for a weekly Awesemo Plus weekly pass. All right. I think it just said weekly twice there in one sentence, so I'm done with that ad read. We'll move on to the very next game. Arizona has a 2.4 implied goal total there going into Colorado. The Avalanche have a 3.1 implied goal total. Colorado is welcoming back Nathan McKinnon. It looks like he's going to play tonight. Colorado's starting to get healthy. They had a lot of injuries. I think almost all of their forwards are back now, except for one. Most of their defensemen are still out, but at least their forwards are back and healthy. The only guy that looks like he's still out amongst their forward group is JT Compher. Arizona, we typically haven't had a lot of interest in them since they broke up the Keller, Garland, and Schmaltz line. But there are a lot of cheap players here that we might need in some Edmonton stacks. So why don't you tell us if there's anything you like on the Arizona side first, and then hit up on Colorado.
Yeah, there's a lot I like in this game. What do you have for the lines? Garland, Schmaltz, Krause?
Yes.
Okay.
Garland, Schmaltz, Krause, and Keller, Pitlick, and Dvorak.
Yeah. So Arizona side, I like this Keller, Dvorak, Pitlick line. They're going to get probably the Kadri matchup, which hasn't been great this season. Saad's a nice offensive player, but he's aging. He's not the best defensively. Burakovsky's a good player too. But obviously you don't want to go into the McKinnon matchup. And you definitely don't want the Yost matchup either. That's a good line, defensive line. So the line you really want to go after is the Kadri line. And I like this Dvorak Keller 2-man. If you want to put in Pitlick, that's fine. That's 9,000 for the two of them. They're Dvorak, Keller, two of their best, which who knows what I'm saying with that, but they're two of their better players. They're going to get a decent matchup. So if I was going to go to a 5-on-5, it's going to be Dvorak, Keller. If you want to do like a Garland, Schmaltz, Dvorak power play stack, I think that is fine as well, just because the Avs are missing a bunch of defensemen, so their PK might not be in tip-top shape. But this game for me is all about the Colorado side. That top line is going to get the Schmaltz-Garland matchup. And yeah, it's a small sample, but with Krause there, their defensive numbers are asinine bad. Almost a 5 expected goal against. It's a 27-minute sample, but that is horrible. So I don't take too much stock into 20-minute sample, 27-minute sample. I want to see that 50, 60 minutes, but it's still not great. So it's there for a reason. It happened. So This Colorado top line, I think I prefer them to Edmonton tonight. If you're spending up, you probably get a little bit of it's more of like an ownership thing. It's not like, oh yeah, the Edmonton going into Ottawa is just terrible. But like, I would imagine maybe McKinnon's super high, but I imagine you're going to get Landeskog and Ranston a little bit less than a Draisaitl or a Barry, something like that. And they fully correlate power play one. And the things that we've hit on in the past couple shows is the Coyotes' penalty kill has been bailed out by their goaltending. And now Darcy Kemper is out. It's probably going to be Antti Ranta, who's still a good goalie. I think it's Ranta tonight.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, he's projected. It's not for sure, but it's almost certainly going to be Ranta.
Either him or Aiden Hill, I would imagine. But yeah, Ranta's a good goalie, but they can't keep up the pace that they're bailing out the penalty kill. So I like Colorado 1, Colorado power play. I would imagine with McKinnon back, he's obviously going to take his power play spot. So Burakovsky's probably going to go to the second power play unit. So I don't mind Colorado top line. You add in Kadri. You can add in Girard, but 5,100 is a little bit pricey for me. And then if you really need like a cheap line, if you want to jam in, if you're jamming in like Edmonton power play, I think this Colorado third line is in a good spot as well. The Coyotes depth is terrible. Colorado 3 is almost min priced. Like they're almost 7,500. They're like maybe a little bit over 8,000. Nishushkin, Yost, Donskoy. Like if you want to take a 2-man from that, that's perfectly fine. Like Nishushkin's been good. Donskoy is always a personal favorite of mine. So that's like a 5,500 2-man that you can put in with your Edmonton power play to really free up some salary to not have to completely punt your last couple spots.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Colorado 3 because I actually wrote that down. I just put call 3 great matchup, and it absolutely is a good matchup. So I do like them as a filler. The Colorado power play, I think, that is the focus of this game. Like you said, Arizona penalty kill. Worst expected goals against in the league this year, but they're getting 903 goaltending on the penalty kill, which would be about league average at all strengths. So it's safe to say that they're overperforming, and that Colorado power play is absolutely deadly. The one thing I want to mention is roster construction with this game, because Kadri and McKinnon and Rantanen are all centers on DraftKings. Because remember, Rantanen was the center in their last game with McKinnon out. Now that McKinnon's back, Rantanen is going to move over to the wing, but he's still listed as a center on DraftKings. So you have Rantanen, Kadri, and McKinnon all on power play 1, all as centers. I think that's and Kadri's pretty expensive now too. He's up to 6,300 on DK. So if you want to stack Kadri, McKinnon, and Rantanen, it's like $22,000. Just to power play stack those 3 guys, like 22-4 something. You put in Girard, you're up to 27. Add a 7,500 goalie, you're up to 35K, and you have a stack and a defenseman left to fill in. Like you really don't have a lot. But I think the triple center is definitely something that's going to be unique tonight. A lot of people don't even like to play double centers. Like I think even McKinnon and Rantanen might be a somewhat more unique combination than it normally will be, because people just don't like to normally play double centers. I mean, they will tonight because it's a 5-game slate, but I don't think it'll be as popular as it should be. And I think the triple center will be even lower owned, just because then you absolutely have to look for 2-man duos like Dodonov and Stützle or Parise and Fiala or something like that. So I'm a big fan of getting, kind of different with Colorado, getting kind of freaky with Colorado here tonight. Double center, triple center, I think is a very good way to get different if you're worried about Colorado ownership, which has been coming up through the day, but I think is going to stay relatively low. Again, the full power play stack is going to be low just because it's a triple center setup. So I do like that a lot. I don't have much from the Arizona side here. I think I have like some one-off Garland or something like that, but these lines, they just don't do anything for me. Like I think it wouldn't be a stretch to say that Arizona might be the worst team in the league. Like they just don't, there's just nothing exciting here. Like you said, Lawson Krause just isn't anything special to play on that line. Like Clayton Keller having to play with Tyler Pitlick is just like, there's just nothing here to like. So, like I said, I do have some one-offs. I think I have some one-off Osterley. I have some one-off Garland. that's about it from the Arizona side. Moving to the defensemen, Colorado's pretty much just playing Taves and Girard like 25 to 30 minutes, and then everybody else just gets like 15 to 20. So I think, like with Colorado, you just correlate with Girard, one off with Taves. The rest of the guys, I think you can leave alone unless you want to just like straight punt somebody. Arizona, I don't like I said, I was a one off Osterley, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the defenseman in this game. If you want to take a stab at Jacob McDonald at 2,800, I guess that's okay. Like, I wish Devin Taves was like 4,700, not 5,300. But I'm probably going to be underweight. Like Oliver Ekman Larson down to 4,000, but I still don't want to play him. Like, I'm probably going to be underweight on the defenseman from this game as a whole. You're going to your boy Lyubushkin again, or no?
No, I think I'm off the Lyubushkin train. He's kind of burned me a few too many times. Like he's actually stopped blocking shots. 1-0-2 in his last 3, so only 3 block shots in 3 games is certainly not going to get it done. I am off the Lyubushkin hype train. Anything else for you from this game?
I normally don't like to pay up at goalie, but this Coyotes team is terrible. Like, Grubauer at 8,200 has some interest to me. And if you are fading Colorado, Antti Ranta has the ability to win. Doesn't mean he's going to, but he is going to see a hefty amount of rubber tonight.
Yeah. He's kind of in that Matt Murray boat.
Yeah.
As long as they don't score 5 or 6, he might be able to put up a good DFS score. All right, let's move it along to our next game then. We have the Los Angeles Kings with a 2.5 implied goal total going into Anaheim. Anaheim also carrying a 2.5 implied goal total, though I think Los Angeles's has come up a bit during the day. One thing to note is Troy Terry is out for Anaheim tonight. He had been playing on the top line with Comtois and Ryan Getzlaf. Jakob Silfverberg jumped up onto that line after Terry got hurt in the last game and played there for the most part for the rest of the game. So I think you're going to see Getzlaf, Silfverberg, and Comtois, but that's not for sure. At the least, you could probably rely on Getzlaf and Comtois being together, and that's the same thing for Henrique and Zegras. I don't want to say for sure who their third forward is going to be, so I'd say just rely on the pairing of Henrique and Zegras playing together. This is going to be a popular game because I think this is a game where a lot of people are going to get their filler stacks for teams like Edmonton and Colorado. So let's take our time here. I kind of like the Los Angeles top line here tonight as one of those lines that's probably not going to draw a lot of ownership because Edmonton and Colorado are here. But there are more lines to like other than that. So what do you like here?
Yeah, it's kind of hard from a matchup perspective just because we never know the Ducks lines. Like, the two mans, like you said, Getzlaf and Comtois probably going to be together. Zegras and Henrique probably be together. I would imagine Lundestrom and Raquel probably. But if Silfverberg's up on the top line, you could see Raquel move up with Henrique. You could see Max Jones. We just don't know. So, and now Raquel's price has come up a little bit. So they're not all the same price. So, you kind of have to be a little bit more aware if you're just randomly throwing in Ducks. You have to keep – I would put in the combos that for sure. And then if, you want to add in something when you see the lines, you can. But I agree. This Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Iafallo going up against Getzlaf, Comtois, it's probably going to, it's going to be missed, right? Because there's Colorado, there's Edmonton, there's even Ottawa is similarly priced. Some Montreal, Vancouver, similarly priced. So this Kopitar line may, and I imagine their ownership's low, despite it being 11-goal game. So I don't mind going back to this LA top line just because, they've been really good on the power play, strangely enough. And Kopitar is always involved. That guy's on the ice, it seems 48 minutes a night. So, Drew Doughty's still, not to the point where you can't play him because he's 6,800. He's only 5,500. I think you can put him in there. If you're not a fan of Iafallo, Dustin Brown, I get it. You can leave him off and add in Kempe if you want for a little bit of salary relief. But for me, if I'm going to go any sort of power play, it's going to be LA1 with Doughty. And then hello, darkness, my old friend. Jeff Carter is going to get the Gabe Vilardi, Carter, Athanasiou is going to get the depth of the Ducks, most likely. I mean, what are we saying? They're all depth lines because they all play 15, 16 minutes a night. But, it's a good matchup. So they are getting up in price a little bit. It's not like you're going to put Vilardi and Carter in for like 7,900 or for like 7,000. They're up in the 8,000s to two-man. Athanasiou makes that line like 11 and change. So I think as a filler, it might be a popular filler just because Carter's been good recently. Vilardi's been decent recently. Athanasiou is if you play NHL DFS, you know him from the wings and even played next to McDavid for a little bit. But they fully correlate power play too. They're going to get, not the Getzlaf line. So I would imagine they're going to be a decently popular filler with the Edmontons, with the Colorados, etc. So just be aware. I'm not saying don't play him because I like Vilardi, Carter, Athanasiou. Just be aware of what you're doing. If it's too easily, it may be duped. And then I like Kempe. Like, I would consider him as a one-off. I don't know if you want to go to like a one-off on a third line, but he does see the power play time. He's a shooter. So I kind of like the Kings tonight. And then, the Ducks, I probably am a little bit more hesitant to pull the trigger on the Ducks, even though they did score a bunch. Like, I probably have just those two mans, the Comtois and Getzlaf, or the Zegras and Henrique. I'd probably be more Zegras, Henrique, just because they're going to avoid the Kopitar matchup, or like a one-off for Kel. Just because, like, we don't know for sure what the lines are going to be. If we knew the lines, I'd have better analysis on the Ducks, but you just kind of have to play it carefully because there's no beat writers. We luckily got the news on, Troy Terry being out. So hopefully we get news before the game goes. And if there's a line you like, put them in. But that's about as best as I can do on the Ducks.
Yeah, the thing with Anaheim with me is I'm not really a fan of their ownership here tonight. We have them on very high ownership. We have Silverberg and Henrique around 15%. We have Zegras are between 11 and 12%. Like, if all those guys are low to mid-teens, like, that's really chalky for a line that's probably got like a 2.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes in a low total game, like on a bad offensive team. Like, I don't want to say I'm going to fade Anaheim tonight, but I'm probably going to come in underweight on them. Like, I just think there's just no – I don't want to say there's no justification. The justification is that they're at home against not a great team on a short slate. But, like, I don't want to just jam in Anaheim with my Edmonton and Colorado just because they fit. I think it's very worth taking the time to try to find other lines that are more unique. Like, we'll talk about the Montreal game later. There's definitely a line in the Montreal game with the new lines that you can use. We talked about Ottawa too earlier. We talked about the Dvorak, Keller, Pitlick line from Arizona. Like, there are other lines that are going to come in sub 10% that are either in as good, if not better spots that will play more minutes. They might be a little bit more expensive, but so what? You have to go down to Alex Chason instead of playing James Neal. It's not that big of a loss. Maybe you have to leave Tyson Barrie off your stack or something like that. I think it's worth it just to avoid what is going to be really chalky secondary stacks from Anaheim. So I am mostly out on the Ducks here tonight. I'm in more on Los Angeles, both their first and second lines. Their first line I'm using in lines like Vancouver power play, Ottawa 1, that type of thing. Their second line is where I'm going to push in with my Edmonton and Colorado stacks. So I like both of the LA top lines here tonight. Not in on Anaheim so much. Goalies, like Cal Peterson is just, over the last 3 years, there's all small samples because he hasn't been a full-time starter in the NHL, but Cal Peterson has flat out been like one of the best goalies in the league, like third by high danger save percentage in the last 3 years. Like, he's only played 30 games. So that's the thing, 32 games, sorry. So that's the thing you have to worry about. But third amongst all goalies with at least 1,500 minutes played by high danger save percentage and double the goals saved above expected of Jacob Markstrom. Like, he's been good. So Cal Peterson's one of my favorite goalies here tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially if the Ducks are going to be chalky, right? So they're going to be a popular filler. So Peterson's probably going to be even lower owned. And I agree. I don't know why the Kings keep going like, oh, we got to play Jonathan Quick. I don't know. Quick should be a backup at this point. Peterson's the guy. And I do agree with your Ducks analysis. I will say I am very partial to Max Comtois. He's been very good recently. And I imagine he comes in lower owned than a Silverberg or a Zegras or Henrique, something like that. And like, yeah, you're saying like they're going to be popular fillers. So I kind of like Colorado 3 as my favorite filler with Edmonton for whatever it's worth. John Gibson 7,500. I'd probably be underweight on the field, which is the first time I can say that this season. I'm on Peterson more in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind Gibson if you want to use him, he's fine. I'm just more on Peterson, especially where I'm correlating more with my Los Angeles stacks. All right, we have one more game to get to, but before we get to it, just want to remind everybody that if you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, you can catch all of your favorite Awesemo YouTube shows through the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest. Leave a 5-star rating and a review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address, and you'll be able to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews will be eligible to win for up to 1 year. So you can win in the summer for baseball, you can win in the fall for football, or even next hockey season. Just head on over to awesemo.com/podcast. You can check out all our podcasts on every major platform. Just leave a 5-star rating and a review and get a chance to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Not a bad deal. And we also have a bunch of free stuff up on the site today, as we usually do. Today, we have free NBA player projections and NHL ownership. So if you're watching this and hearing us talk about all these chalky Anaheim Ducks, but you haven't subscribed yet, you can check out our ownership, see what it's all about. If you like what you see, go on and sign up over here at awesemo.com. All right, we're getting to our final game, and I'm going to go off on just like a little mini rant here. I see everybody complaining about how this game is starting at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Listen, guys, try living in the Atlantic time zone where every single late game every night starts at 11 or 11:30 p.m. I don't remember the last time I went to bed before midnight. Like, honestly, it's been years. So this one night of a game starting at 11 p.m. Eastern, you guys can suck it up for one night. Try living in Newfoundland, where it's even 30 minutes later than it is for me. This game will be starting at 12:30 a.m. their time. So I don't want to hear any more about these late starts. Just suck it up, watch the game. All right. We're going to get to this game. Before we get to Josh, I want to just talk about these new Montreal lines that are going to be coming to us in this game tonight. They dropped right before we came on the air, so I don't even know if our ownership or Top Stacks tool are updated with them yet. But they are going back to the old line of Suzuki, Anderson, and Drouin, but the other three lines look a little bit different. Kotkaniemi between Toffoli and Brendan Gallagher, and Philip Deneau between Thomas Tatar and Joel Armia. I had a long diatribe about what the matchups were going to be and how they were important for this game, but now I really don't know what the matchups are going to be because they've changed up their lines since the last game. Again, another game where I think there's a lot to like on both sides, so I'll let you take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, so I have been going back and forth for the past hour trying to figure out who's going to match up with who. And like the thing is with Montreal, you're like, oh wow, their old lines are they're elite 5-on-5. These guys, you don't have much of a sample besides the Suzuki line. We all know what that is. I don't know if this is a safe assumption or I'm just crazy. I would imagine the Horvat line, if they see the top competition, they maybe treat that as the Suzuki, Drouin, Anderson line, or more likely they see it as the Toffoli, Gallagher, Kotkaniemi line. But the Horvat line is definitely going to see one of those two, right? Which leaves the Miller, Besser, Hogliner line to see the either or. So, okay. Matchup aside, on the Montreal side, if you're trying to get in a Montreal 1 or a Colorado 1, this Tatar Deneau Armia line is very cheap. They are a little over 12,000 as a full line. The Power play correlation stinks, but we don't really play the Canadians for the power play.
No.
Armia is on the top power play, 3,500. Tatar is 4,700 on power play 2. And then Dano does not get power play time. I think it's a fine filler line if you're trying to play Colorado and Edmonton. The Armia Tatar 2-man is 8-2, which is reasonable. So that is the filler 2-man that I would go to unless you want to go unless you can fit like Suzuki Duran, but that's more 9,100. It's might be a little bit tougher. And if I was going to a full line here, like obviously the Suzuki Duran Anderson line, we know what to expect from them. They're a very good line. They're going to see ownership as well. I really like this Toffoli Kotkaniemi Gallagher line. Even if they see the Horvat line, like Horvat's their best defensive center, but he's playing with Pearson and Jake Virtanen, so there's nothing to ride home about. It is only 16-4 for the full line, which is manageable. Toffoli's obviously on the top power play, 7,000, and then you get the 2-man of Kotkaniemi and Gallagher on power play 2. If you want to like go for a little power play 2 with Kotkaniemi Gallagher, that's fine. 9,400, that's also reasonable. So yeah, I like this top line as a stack, and I like going to little minis if you're trying to fit in a more expensive line like a Suzuki Duran or an Armia Tatar. And then on the the Vancouver side, I think for me, if I'm going to go Vancouver, it's all about the power play. The Canadians' penalty kill is not great. They take a ton of penalties, so I think you can do like a Horvat, Miller, Besser. If you even want to add in, I think Tanner Pearson's up there as well. He's 3,500. I think you can do that. Quinn Hughes is 5,200. It's manageable. He hasn't been great recently, but I think you can go in with that. I don't mind. The second line is a full stack, Miller, Besser, Hoglander. But if you want to get more power play correlation, you can leave off Hoglander, go Pearson, something like that. But Vancouver side is all about power play.
Yeah, agree with you. Vancouver power play. I love that stack here today. But the problem is a lot of people are going to like that stack today. I was just checking out our ownership, and Tanner Pearson, we have him as the 5th highest owned player on the entire slate, which kind of makes sense, right? You can 2-man him with Horvat. They're going to play minutes. They're going to play power play. It's a good power play matchup. So like that makes sense. But just be aware that if you're going Edmonton power play plus a 2-man of Horvat Pearson, chances are you're going to have a bunch of friends with you with kind of the same lineup. So just be aware that you could get duped there. And it is a concern. That's kind of what makes me get away from the even strength matching from Vancouver here. I think everything I do with the Canucks, it'll be a power play stack of some sort. So like Horvat Pearson with Besser, or Horvat Pearson with Miller, or, Pearson with Miller and Besser and Hughes, or, something like that. I'll be stacking across the lines. I'll be focusing mostly on the power play for Vancouver because like Montreal's the most penalized team in the league. Like there's a game earlier this season where Vancouver power play broke the slate because they got 3 power play goals against the Habs. That game featured 10 goals total. Tyler Toffoli had a hat trick. It was bonkers, but it just goes to show that Montreal's penalty kill is bad. Vancouver's already shown that they can win a slate with it in this exact same matchup. Lacking Elias Pettersson, but we've seen Vancouver do reasonably well over the last few games without him. So I do like that Vancouver power play. As far as Montreal, I'm not 5-man stacking any of the lines. In fact, I'm going to have to go and change a whole bunch of my lines because I made them this afternoon, which was obviously a stupid play. Love the 2-man of Kotkaniemi and Gallagher, but you're right. It might be a little bit expensive at that point. You're getting up to a $4,700 average cost. And that really restricts what you can do elsewhere. Like you can't fit them in with Colorado power play 1 or something like that. So just be aware, like Kotkaniemi and Gallagher is my favorite 2-man, but just be aware it is also the most expensive 2-man outside of Kotkaniemi and Toffoli. Looking towards the blue line, like I think, it's the same thing with Vancouver that it always is. Correlate Hughes with your power play. Otherwise, like there's probably nothing there that I want to play. Even Nate Schmidt, like he's getting some secondary minutes on the power play, but he was down to like 14 minutes last game, and his ice time has been really inconsistent. they're playing Tyler Myers a ton, and that's actually what makes me like Montreal here more. Vancouver is 28% worse than the league average defensively with Myers on the ice this year. Like, he's just a tire fire. If they're going to play him 24 minutes, I will take every one of those minutes from Montreal because they're good minutes for the Habs. I don't really like a bunch of the defensemen in this game. I think correlating with the Habs, like Weber, I'll put him, in my stacks with Suzuki or Drouin or something like that. And I'll put Petrie with my secondary guys if I need a stack and not just a two-man, or just dump all the way down to Brett Kulak. I don't think I'm going to be taking any of those guys in the mid-range.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Travis Hamonic, 3,100. I guess. I wish he was still under 3,000. So I'm kind of just correlating my defenseman as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think correlating is the way to go. Goalies, I made a note here. This is how important paying attention to shot volume is. Carey Price has 1 save bonus this year, and Thatcher Demko has 5. He's already hit the 35 save bonus on 5 different occasions. I love Thatcher Demko again here tonight.
Agreed. 7,300 at home. Like, come on. Yeah, especially if you're using Vancouver, like, just plug him in.
Yeah, exactly.
Team correlation there. I don't mind him as a one-off either, but there are, like we've talked about, there's a bunch of goalies on this slate. So if you like one, roll with it.
Yeah, that's why we talked about Capo Kakinen earlier. You said he kind of felt a little bit trappy at 7,400. But then if you look later in the slate, you have Antti Ranta at 7K if you want to get different up against Colorado. Peterson at 7,500 and Demko here at 7,300. There are a lot of goalies 7,500 and below tonight that you can use. So I think other than Grubauer, I'd be spending 7,500 or less on my goaltenders.
Definitely. And I'm off Carey Price as I usually am. Especially if the Canadians can't stay out of the penalty box, it could be a long night for them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We have a couple minutes left. So Josh, why don't you throw out one of your favorite stacks today that isn't Edmonton or Colorado, and a guy that you think could hat trick tonight?
My hat trick pick yesterday was Steven Stamkos, so can't get any worse than that. Favorite line is Ottawa 1. And hat trick, let's see. I'm going... Who am I going with here? As I keep scrolling, I'm going to say Mikko Rantanen.
Mikko Rantanen hat trick. Okay. I will go. I'm with you on Ottawa 1. I really do like that line. I was actually going to pick that line, but you took it from me, so I won't take the Ottawa 1 line here tonight. I'll go Los Angeles 2. They may be fairly popular, but I really like the way they've been playing. I think it's a great matchup. Good filler stack here tonight. For my one-off, for my hat trick goal scorer tonight, I'll say Connor Garland. Let's see if he can do something and carry Arizona on his back to a win here tonight. All right, that'll wrap it up for us for today, everybody. If you could, before heading out, if you could like and subscribe, help us grow this channel here. Ding the bell if you want to get notifications to whenever we come on the air again. We're usually here every day except for Sundays. For our producer Tyler, for Joshua Captain America Harris, this is Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy, saying good luck tonight, everybody.